Sox fans, welcome to episode 211 of Good Guys Talk Back. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. You can find us absolutely everywhere. Go live on our YouTube channel most Sunday nights or sometimes Monday nights. Thanks so much for boycotting the Oscars and being with us live past this podcast along to other Sox fans in your life. We do appreciate it. Got a ton to get to here. And the weekend that was eventful with 16 games left in the spring schedule. Chopping everything up. My very good friend, lifelong Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Just very good.
Not very good, nice, and more. Is what I should have said.
Tell me about the more. How can they get there?
Well, sometimes you play therapist, so you're more than just a friend.
That's true. Yeah. I am here for you. The couch is always available. Buddy, it's good to talk to you. I'm excited that we have some left-handed power to talk about.
Oh, my goodness.
From our right fielder. And Yohan Moncada doing things in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
Let's get into it, my man.
Yeah. Is there something right off the bat that just caught you this past weekend or the last week since we've talked? Anything? New promo schedule? It could be anything you want to talk about.
Kopech today, that was a good sign. 9 up, 9 down. Now, again, not the full Angels lineup.
No, it was not.
With Shohei Ohtani playing for Japan, Mike Trout with the American team. So he's not facing murderer's row, right? But that was nice to see. He did exactly what he needed to do, because it could have gone the other way today. And you say, well, he's just working on things. It's spring. It's early. It's his first start. So again, I don't want to get too excited about one.
Get excited, but get excited.
It's nice that he went out and did what he needed to do against the depleted Angels lineup. And I'm telling you, man, Colas hitting for power now, not just the average that we've been excited about. And we'll say, well, the home runs will come, the power swing will come. I think it's here. Now, whether that carries into, the early spring when he gets up to Chicago or not, I'm calling it. He's done enough for me now to make this team. Is that crazy? Again, I think I said it a couple weeks ago. I think he's done. He's getting close to being done enough. I think he's doing enough now. I think he's your right fielder. I don't think there's any question about it. Is that crazy?
It's not crazy. I mean, they flashed a graphic on the screen during Sunday's game on NBC Sports Chicago, and this is not counting his blast in the first inning. But through 13 games, he's slugging, 557. He's hitting 407, 11 hits, I think, in 13 games, only one strikeout. And he had that one home run late in the game, a pinch hit home run, a moonshot on Saturday, and then followed it up with a bomb in the first inning of Sunday. Really the only offense for the Sox in Sunday's tie against the Angels. And you're right, Pat. Angels had a lot of players with no names on the back of their uniforms and high numbers, and a different type of Angels team than the White Sox saw earlier this spring. But to Colas and Kopech's credit, it's like, well, hey, that's the lineup that's against me. I'm just going to go out and play my game. And following up from what he did Saturday night, that was great to see from Oscar Colas. It is absolutely his position to lose right now. And that's refreshing. The throws in from right field, I haven't been overly impressed with the arm. I don't think we've really seen any of that. But man, the offense is absolutely there. Now, there was a situation in Sunday's game where he came up with the bases loaded. And obviously it was a tight game. And the Angels pitcher was struggling. And Steve Stone was commenting a little bit on, how to approach a pitcher that has obviously lost the strike zone. And Colas swung at a pitch that was out of the strike zone. He golfed it to left field. And I'm wondering if that's a situation, one of the many that he's going to build on. He was a little aggressive, wanted to be the hero, bases loaded. This is another big opportunity. And, practicing that patience and pitch selection, one of the things that obviously everybody needs to work on, but hopefully he takes that away, and, Grifol and Tosar and Castro use that and say, hey, look, just here's a situation that, you can benefit from. Pitcher's a little erratic, hasn't been able to find the zone. I know you want to be a hero, but still make him come to you.
Yeah, and this chalks up to Grafal wanting guys to fail.
Yes.
Give them an opportunity to have that coaching moment where it's like, listen, let's have this discussion now in spring, and it's going to have guys are going to fail and have issues throughout the season. There's nobody going to be perfect. I understand that, but let's have these situations come up now where you can have those coachable moments where they remember it and they can apply it for the next time when it's maybe a more meaningful game.
Yeah. For Michael Kopech, I noticed just physically his legs. His legs look bigger. They look more powerful. He wants to be more of a pitcher, not just a thrower. This is a huge season for him
Hmm.
coming up. An absolute X factor. I think he has talked about how the pitch clock can be a friend of his. He has seemed to work slow in past seasons, get out of his head a little bit with the pitch clock, accept the sign, go after. And that's what he did on Sunday. Again, I know not even maybe the B or C lineup for the Angels, but guys that are trying to impress Angel coaches. They're trying to do what they can do to make a team. And Kopech went right after them. I thought he had pretty good command. He would fall, a 3-1, 3-2, but would come right back into the strike zone. He was at 37 pitches after 3 innings. I think he could have gone another, but it was his debut. It was his first outing of the spring. He had to have had some anxieties, some jitters. It's spring. Okay, he's been here before, but he knows what kind of year he is supposed to have and what he wants to have. And this is the first time on a televised game we get to see Michael Kopech. And you remember from like last year, and he would come into a game in that first inning when he would start, or maybe the bullpen the previous season, you'd see some pitches fly, out of the zone. He's a little amped up. And after he would settle down after that first inning or so, it's then he got himself into a group. I saw him, with a controlled anxiety or controlled aggression, or however you want to say it, this past game on Sunday. And that is a great thing to build on.
Well, what I like about it, Nick, is like I said, 9 up, 9 down, and he only struck out one guy. And it made me think about, because I watched the most recent episode of Last Comiskey and Black Jack
Mhm.
McDowell up there
Mhm.
talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
how strikeouts are overrated, and I really don't want guys to swing and miss at my changeup. I want them to hit it to my defense. So those are the types of things I wish pitchers of today would understand a little bit better and start to do and implement more. It's like, listen, all this swing and miss stuff, that the statistics that are out there, and I get why they're important, because the game has changed so much over the years from a walk, strikeout, home run perspective. But I think there's still value in guys that can pitch to contact, not worry about swing and miss so much, but just get guys not to barrel it up, hit it off their hands or off the end of the bat, and let your defense actually contribute and be behind you and be into the game. So I love that. If I don't need Kopech to strike out 200 guys, I just need him to get outs. And if we see more of this, he'll have a longer season and it'll be much more effective.
Yeah, going deep into a game, you can't be a strikeout pitcher because you're going to throw 100 pitches after 5 innings. You've got to trust your defense. Now, there wasn't much of a defense to trust last year for the White Sox, bottom of all of the league, not just American League. That's the stuff that needs to change, and I think it will under Grafol and his coaching staff. But to your point, if you want to go deep in the game, you've got to just pepper in, just trust your catcher, trust the folks behind you. And the last Comiskey stuff was great. And I hope we do spend some time this episode talking about all of part two. But the McDowell stuff and those pitchers, though, it wasn't that type of game where it was chunked like 5 innings for your starter. Then I've got
Yeah.
my specialty guy that's going to set up the eighth inning guy that's going to bridge to the closer. There wasn't that type of mentality. It was like
Mhm.
you're probably going 7 or 8, and if you
Yeah.
can go 9, that's not out of the realm back in the 80s in 90s for sure. So you had to pace yourself. You didn't want to be a strikeout pitcher necessarily. It's like, because
Mhm.
that's more pitches on your arm. That's more. maybe full counts and hitters battling things. And so you were like, hey, if I can get some quick outs here, it's going to save me for sure. So I can be useful in the 7th and 8th.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Nick. And that impressed me over the weekend. Again, I'm impressed by, after a pretty slow start for the Cuban team, how Yohan Moncada has kind of turned it on a little bit here and got you excited again about what he can do. Watching him swing the bat with power, that's fun to watch. Hopefully that continues. Maybe this is the best thing that can happen to Yohan Moncada, get those competitive juices going early on, so we can see something similar when the real thing starts. And Jake Berger, really, Nick, I mean, it's exactly what you'd want to see. And he's working out at first base. And I don't know. Again, this brings up this conundrum. What do we do with a Jake Berger? His bat belongs in the major leagues. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. It's his body that's let him down. Is there someone out there that'd be willing to take a Jake Berger, or is there a way to fit him in on this roster?
Well, we can talk bench and utility, and you're right. He needs to hit his way onto this ball club. That's what we talked about at the beginning of spring training, and he leads all of spring training with 4 home runs. Now there's like a dozen other guys that have 4 home runs, but still, you're in that conversation. He had 2 in one game this past weekend. Played a little bit of third base, played some first base. He's not a guy that's going to be making this team with his glove, but his bat is something else, man. It's a danger against lefties. I just am trying to think about this utility, these bench roles, and you've got Hanser Alberto, you've got Lurie Garcia, you've got Gavin Sheets. Seby Zavala is obviously going to be your number 2, and he's been having a pretty good spring, especially offensively. How does Berger jump over one of those guys? It's the righty bat, but I would think with your bench roles, you want guys that can be, they're Swiss Army knives. We can also use you in several positions. Like Hanser Alberto, you can play all over the infield. Romy Gonzalez, who's been having a horrible spring training with the bat. I mean, he's hitting under 100, and that was a guy that was hyped up of he's going to be your starting second baseman. He was in those hype videos, like, lifting weights and running sprints and parachute things behind him and ropes being, flipped all over the place. And, I'm going to win this second base position, which is a great mentality. Nothing but good things we've heard about his spring. This guy came to camp weeks ahead of time, according to Grifol. Really like what he can do. And they were going to get him to try outfield positions. Talk about versatility. You could play infield and outfield, and you're supposed to have some pop with your bat. Haven't seen it. Garcia has not had a good spring at all. I mean, he was booting the ball, errors left and right, miscues, I should say. I don't know if he got actually credited with any errors against the Cubs on Friday, but he just has not looked good. So, I mean, what do you do? I mean, who's really impressed, or who do you even think? Gavin Sheets, I think, is on this team from a bench perspective. Other than that, I just, I don't know for sure.
It's going to be, it's difficult, Nick, because you've got, I think, again, a lot of the same. You've got a lot of the same type of guys that are good enough to play, but they're not versatile enough defensively. So there's probably going to be guys that are going to make this club and jump over guys like a Jake Berger, just because Jake is not going to be coming in as a defensive replacement late in games. He's, he'd be there as a pinch hitter type role, or to give, somebody a break once or twice a week, whether it's third or at first base, I suppose. But, you're really limited, I guess, in his opportunities. And it's a shame, because a guy like that should have more opportunities to get, 3 to 4 at bats to maybe 5 at bats a game. And I just don't see how that's going to happen. I think it's going to be given those spots on the bench are given to guys that can play defensive positions.
And I forgot to even mention Billy Hamilton, who can play some defense out there in the outfield, and also is a burner on the base paths, which is a whole new, strategy with the bigger bases and the threat just in general, Billy Hamilton, whether you're going to make the bases larger or not, he's a threat. But he's not going to give you the power. He's not going to give you the pop. That is a battle that I'm watching closely. I was very high on Hanser Alberto and kind of continue to be, but Lurie Garcia's owed money. Is it an obscene amount of money where they can say goodbye to that? And because Griffol's got a history with Alberto, and he's been nothing but high on Alberto and their time in Kansas City. And I'm wondering if Griffol's just like, look, Lurie's not one of my guys. He just doesn't seem to be a guy that fits into my mold, but he's a switch hitter. He can play multiple positions. I don't know.
Yeah, but Nick, let's be honest with it. I mean, the guy that was in his corner is no longer there.
Correct. Yeah.
And Tony La Russa is no longer the manager. So if I was Lurie Garcia, I'd be shaking in my boots every day, especially not performing. Mm-hmm. Last year and the year before, it was like, I'm safe. I got this guy. This guy ain't gonna get rid of me. He loves me for whatever reason. I fooled this old man, and now his security blanket is no longer there.
Yeah.
So I mean, what is he really owed? I'm not sure, but this is a team that also gave Dallas Keuchel his walking papers and paid him a lot of money to go away because he just simply wasn't performing anymore, and he was hurting the team. I don't know if a role player or a bench guy can really affect the team that much where he's hurting the team like a starting pitcher would every fifth day. But I mean, there is precedent out there for just paying the money and letting him walk. It's not like he's got multiple years. It's the last year of his deal, if memory serves. So it would cost them some money. Maybe it would be a stupid way to spend your money to just have a guy not be there. But I don't know. I mean, there's precedent out there, Nick, for just letting guys walk. This team has done it before.
It has happened. I'm wondering if does somebody have to beat Lurie Garcia and kind of really jump over him? He's longest tenured Chicago White Sox player. Does he have some sort of precedent of, he's almost owed the position? I don't know. I hope it's not looked at like that. I hope, Griffol and his coaching staff is just fresh. Everybody starts fresh aside from a handful. Everybody's fighting for a position. And, does someone have to absolutely, leapfrog him and beat him? Or is it simply, you're not the type of player I'm looking for, and you just didn't give me anything this spring? It's a battle that, keep an eyes on is well worth your time right now.
And what kind of message that send to the rest of the clubhouse, Nick? If you've got a guy that's clearly underperforming, that isn't a valuable piece, but he gets to be here, I could see that if you give guys the benefit of the doubt if they're all-time greats, right? Regardless of the fact if he's been here a long time, he's not an all-time great. If it's Frank Thomas there and it's like, okay, well, it's kind of like Frank's swan song, right? It's his going away party. You get it if you let those legends hang around maybe a year long, but they're going to get some at bats. He can tip his cap to the crowd once in a while, hit a big home run. But Lurie Garcia is not going to be that type of guy. I don't think it sends the right message to the rest of the group if you hold on to things that are invaluable to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point as well. I think Grifol has got a really good idea of who he wants on this club, and interesting the little guys that they picked up here and there. Whether a team was DFA'd or the Rule 5 with Avila, some of the arms. I think it was very strategic. How they formed this team, and Lurie kind of came with the job. And I feel like already we've spent way too much time on Lurie Garcia, which is always the case, but he is a peculiar player. He's one of those, he's been around for a long, long time, since before, obviously, Abreu. He came over a few months before Abreu in a trade with the Rangers with Alex Rios. And he's been through a lot of managers and he's survived. And I'm wondering if this is it. This is the end of the road, because there are so many other interesting bench utility guys that Grifol can go with.
Yeah, you're right, Nick. We've probably spent way too much time talking about it. I guess we'll wait for the chips to fall where they will.
Yeah.
And again, it'd be great for a team to be looking for a guy like him that we could move him early on. But again, I think the guys that are going to make this club are going to be guys that are a little bit more versatile. And
Yeah.
unfortunately for a guy like a Jake Berger, like we were talking about, he doesn't have a position right now to start, unless Moncada goes down, God forbid. So he's probably going to be sent down to the minors again. And I just think, his bat belongs in this league. And I think he's shown enough in terms of his little spurts here and there that he could help a club.
Yeah. Yeah, am I way off for trying to figure out a way to compare Berger to like a Schwarber of,
No,
his
you're
bat
not
is
way off.
his bat is definitely there. His
Yeah.
bat is MLB ready. And that's what everyone was saying about Schwarber, who was a catcher originally, and just obviously not going to win a Gold Glove out in left field or in the outfield. And where are you going to put this guy? I don't know, but we need his bat,
Yeah.
and that is the case with Berger. I mean, he got
Yeah.
hot last season, and but it's the curious case of who's in front of you right now, and you're
Yeah.
not gonna jump Andrew Vaughn, and you're not gonna jump Moncada, and if you do, or if you play because of them, then that's an unfortunate situation because they're hurt, and
Yeah.
that's what we just don't want. So, wow. I just don't know. And it's he's a guy that it's so easy to root for too.
Yeah.
So excited for him. And he is doing everything he possibly can to make noise and force the situation. So
All the
we'll
best
see.
to him. I
Yeah.
mean, I would love to have him on this club because again, I think he seems like a great
Fighter.
person. He seems
Battles.
like, and I think he'd be great for that clubhouse on a day in and day out basis.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and a lot of that leads me into my next thought. You're talking about the things I took away from is
Yeah.
Rick Hahn talking about how much he's enjoyed this spring and the way that the club has come together, and his besties there, and he's liking how this is going so far. So, not a surprise, that comes out every year. Oh, we like how camp's going. That's always going to be the thing that's said. But, when the lawyer speaks, you got to listen, I suppose.
Yeah, he enjoys it. Everything that Grafol says, I continue to enjoy. There's an interesting article on WhiteSox.com by Merck, just talking about coaching preparedness, and Tosar was jumping in. We're hearing about these long days that these coaches are putting in, like 4 a.m. and we're here until all the details get sorted out, and it's maybe not going to be that way during the regular season, but right now we are putting in the work. And we know that Pedro Grifol has surrounded himself with coaches that he's got a history with for the most part, friends. These are guys I like. These are guys I want to spend more time than with my family as we work together for one common goal. And I found that to be, I think, kind of refreshing and interesting of, the benefits of working with friends, because you can get real with friends. You will butt heads, and it sometimes combusts, but I feel like you can say something to a friend where you have a history with, if that this isn't going to break us, you're not going to walk away being like, what in the world is this guy thinking? How dare he say something like that to me? When you're with somebody and you have a history with somebody and you've built a foundation, you could maybe second guess somebody, hopefully if it's a solid, truly deep friendship, you could call somebody out on something and say, I don't like the way that was happening. I think you missed something there, and you can survive. Your relationship can survive. Now, if he came into the situation where he was not able, to hire the people that he wanted to hire, you might have an icy, you might not want to step on, you might be a little too cautious and a little too polite. You might not want to call somebody out and say, that's not how we would have done it. Or can we, and before you know it, you don't mention it. And then a snowball, and it's completely out of control. So your thoughts on, just the benefits of working with friends.
Well, would you be concerned if you're Daryl Boston?
Excuse me, can I come into the meeting, please?
Daryl Boston. It's the no Daryl's. Well, never mind. I think there's a great point there you have, Nick, and it's not a group that was assembled, outside of Grifol's, desires on who he wanted to have, on his team, because listen, there's a health when there's dissenting voices and people have different opinions. You have to be able to communicate that amongst the group and then be able to rise above and then come to a conclusion, right? It's okay to disagree on something, but if you disagree with somebody you have no respect for, then you can't move past it. And then it becomes you're butting heads with these
Yep.
people. And that's where relationships, go south. If you and I, Nick, we've known each other for 20 plus years, we haven't always agreed, surprisingly enough. But we respect each other enough that I could hear your opinion, you could hear mine, and maybe one or the other convinces the other person, let's try it this way. And I respect your opinion enough. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's see what happens. But if there wasn't that relationship there, it could be awfully tough to come onto some common ground. And if you can't have that, if you can't, Tim Anderson talking from the same end, pulling from the same end of the string. If you don't have that within your management group or your coaching group, then it's not going to work for the rest of the team either. So that's a great start. Again, I'm with you. Whenever I hear Pedro Grifol talk, for the most part, I kind of salivate because I feel like he's got his shit together, right? He just he seems extremely prepared to be in this position. Like, I don't feel like again, he's been in the game a long time and been on the bench for a long time and coached many different ways, shapes, and forms throughout his career. I just feel like I'm seeing what Rick fell in love with when he interviewed this guy. And it's like, it's coming to fruition now. And again, I mentioned it last week and I'll say it every week. There's going to be times when he makes a bad call, brings in the wrong, not the wrong guy, but, calls aren't going to, things he does aren't going to go his way all the time, just the way the game's played. And we'll question it and we'll say, he should have gone this way, or maybe he should have took this guy out earlier. But right now, I don't know that there's anything not to like about what he's doing. And he's trying to get guys in and figure some things out, giving some competition to guys. And I'm liking what I see.
And he has to navigate his way around a World Baseball Classic that disrupts, his first spring training. I was watching I believe it was the Wednesday game. I caught it on the MLB TV, through my subscription, the app, and it was the Royals game. And it was the one where Cease he was absolutely lost. He could not find the plate with his breaking stuff. He lasted, I think, 2/3 altogether, 11 earned runs. It was just an absolute mess. He shook it off. I like what Cease said after the game, and what I'm going to circle back to Grifol in a moment here. But one of the things, now that I'm on the Cease train, that I loved reading after Cease's rough outing is, through his quotes, he essentially was like, I left the game healthy. At the end of the day right now, in kind of the dog days of spring training, and a lot of these White Sox players that have been around for a couple of years, especially last year, are like, we know what's happened in spring training to this club. We know what's happened throughout the year to this club. Okay. Didn't go my way performance-wise, but, I get it. It's spring. I like my bullpen sessions. I left the game healthy, though. And that's the key right now, as we inch closer, man. We're 3 weeks away from the home opener. We are, 17 days away from opening day. It's coming, man, and it's coming fast. So I thought that was a clever point. When what is the term? You're in an office environment. See the forest beyond the trees. Is that the big buzz saying?
You've got to see the forest for the trees, through the trees. There's trees involved.
Yeah, I know.
And they make up the forest. And you've got to be able to have your eyes open to see the forest.
Well, I'm glad I deferred to you. You cleared it all up. Clear as mud. So let me get back to the Grifol thing here. It was the Royals broadcast. So they had the call, and they had Ned Yost in the booth. Ned Yost was the manager for the Royals when they won the World Series, went back-to-back World Series. Pedro Grifol was on that team. Ned Yost knows Pedro Grifol very well. By the way, Ned Yost going into the Royals Hall of Fame this summer. Another team with their Hall of Fame. Love that concept. I wish the White Sox would adopt it somehow, some way. But the broadcasters, on the call talked to Ned Yost, asked him about Grifol. And Yost, of course, wasn't going to throw Grifol over the bus, but you could just tell the way he gushed over Grifol and very happy that not only got the job, but kind of spoke to White Sox fans and said, listen up, you've got a great manager here. He is an outstanding hire. Expect good things from this guy. And Grifol has said recently, look, I was ready for the job 10 years ago. Okay. But I didn't have, the horse sense with people, the bedside manner with people. I needed to learn how to be, manage personalities, which is a lot of what this game is as a manager, I would assume, just, following this game for so long. So again, just more good stuff there. And Salvi Perez coming out with more stuff over the last few days. He's going to be a great manager.
Well, it's all good, Nick, and it gets me excited to get this season started. Like right now at this point, and I think the players are probably like this too. It's like, let's just get this thing going.
Colas is like, can we start the season tomorrow?
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Although the weather wouldn't be fantastic if we started tomorrow, but it'll be nice to wait a little bit longer. But I think we're at that point where watching exhibition baseball is getting a little tiresome. I enjoy looking at the box score after the game, watching it when I can, listening when I can. But at this point now, it's like, let's get it going. I'm excited to see these guys, especially when you see positives out there, and from a Colas, again, I'll go back to Moncada in the World Baseball Classic. Just the fact that he's swinging with some aggression now against quality pitching in a let's call it an amped up environment. And he's excited to be out there and play for his country. So those are all the things. It's like, kind of like, can we just fast forward? Can somebody just knock me out for the next couple of weeks and wake me up when the season starts? Just put me on ice for a little bit.
What you always know this term, the SNL, the parody of NyQuil. Hibernal.
Yeah.
The stuff that Chris Farley took.
Yeah.
It's just basically wipe out the entire cold and flu season for like 5 months.
He's got that big giant drum of and that blue liquid, and it's coming down his face, and he wakes up with the long fingernails and the long beard. Yeah, that's kind of what I want. I mean, he was out for several months. I don't want to be out for several months. I just want to
2.5 weeks.
Just 2 weeks.
Just so maybe just scale back on the dosage. You'd have to read the instructions, of course.
Well, I'd have to figure out for my weight. I mean, Chris Farley, I would hope maybe weighed a little bit more than me. It remains to be seen. God rest his soul.
What put Chris Farley out? Let me scale back. How many ounces should I?
I mean, I had him in height. Let's be honest. I did have him in height.
Oh, you did. You sure did.
But you never know. It's all about reading the instructions on your medication and being safe, Nick.
It's all about safe. It's all about healthy. But you also sometimes you just want to fast forward.
Sometimes I just want a good sleep, Nick.
You just want a good sleep.
Need some rest.
Oh my goodness, is that funny? I just envision you just trying to do the math and the calculations and like, wait a second here. Maybe I should just do more regular NyQuil than actually do a Hibernal, and maybe like 2 bottles of NyQuil equals
just 2 bottles of NyQuil.
It'll get you through 2 weeks or something.
Here lies Pat. He tried to take a nap.
He just wanted to fast forward spring training. Is it wrong? Is it wrong for me to just fast forward these last?
Can you do my eulogy for me, please? And
I
just
absolutely will.
Listen, we talked about it. You really shouldn't have taken the NyQuil. I suggested
about
2 bottles of it, and he took it seriously.
It's just good intentions. He shot for the moon, which I am a supporter of.
You are a big person for shooting for moons. Yes.
Well, 16 games left. Let's try to get through it. I don't think there's any other league play against the World Baseball Classic. That tune-up against Team Columbia was all that they had. Giolito had a good outing against the Cubs, I thought, in his second outing of spring. He was really happy about. He seems to be really excited about the pitch clock. Like, he has really turned around, and he thinks this can be such a benefit to his game. So that was good to see. My one downer for the weekend, there were some miscues and some errors. Sox were 0 for 11 for the weekend and with runners in scoring position.
Ugh.
So that's a problem. Situational hitting has got to improve. And then my man, Jake Diekman, had a rough outing. I
Oh, you
believe
don't
it
say.
was, yeah, I believe it was Saturday. I don't even think he went a full inning. 3 runs. It was an absolute mess. Our lone trade deadline acquisition from last season, Jake Diekman. Luckily to have him around still.
I can't wait for Jake Diekman to be part of your trivia nights. When Nick Murawski does a trivia night,
Oh yeah, watch out.
and in 3 or 4 years, you're going to have a
Yep.
Diekman trivia question. It's just going to baffle people,
Mhm.
and they'll look upon it with horror, and you'll say the only trade deadline acquisition we made in 2022 was. And people will just be like, "Oh, that's interesting. I can
If you
remember."
could take that potion to knock you out for someone's just like career, like anytime that they came into a game, just like all of a sudden you just kind of zone out. That I would take that for Jake Diekman for sure.
Well, for me,
Yeah.
it would have been Billy Koch. When Billy Koch
Oh,
came
good
in, if I
Lord.
could have
Okay.
just, jumped off not a high building, just enough to
Sure.
knock me out. Just
Again, I can see you gauging yourself on the ledge, like, let me see here. How high am I up here? What's the force?
I'm
What's
not
the
looking
speed
to
of me
cause a
coming?
lot of harm. I just want to be, I don't know, maybe like a frying pan to the head or something. I don't know.
So something from an 80s Looney Tunes
Yeah.
cartoon. If I just all right.
Rolling pin,
Yeah,
pan, something
Tom,
like that.
something Tom and Jerry esque
Mhm.
would be helpful. Something just like put my hand in a mouse trap or something like that. The White Sox released a second wave pad of promotional items while everyone was probably not paying attention, which is always the case. And there's probably going to be a third wave. A lot of promotional nights and specialty things. Elvis night is back. Rock and roll night. There's a NASCAR night. Country music, of course. There's a windbreaker, which is kind of nice. A fanny pack. Fanny packs are coming
Oh,
back.
yeah.
And they're going to be issued as a game giveaway. And then one player bobblehead, I should say, Dylan Cease with the 83s and the
Oh, look out. You're not
mustache.
going to be able to touch that night.
Oh boy, I've got my tickets already secured. August 26th. It's this Saturday. That is only 15,000 because Benny's is the sponsor. So you got to be 21 and older. So 15,000 being given away. Maybe it helps your chances. Maybe it hurts your chances. I'll be there first in line, though. No
I know.
questions
You might as
about
well
it.
get in line now.
Well, take the potion. If I could just
Take
fast
the
forward.
potion. Yep. Just give me what is it? August when? When is that game?
26th.
Oh man, that's gonna be a hot, muggy game. That'll be good. I can't wait. So for that one, will you just walk in and walk out, or will you stay for the game?
See, I'm going to stay for the game, and here is the cool thing that they're giving season ticket holders this year. There's always been an exchange program, so you were able to exchange tickets that you weren't gonna. It obviously couldn't be. You couldn't go back and be like, oh yeah, for a game that's already passed, can I move to a new game? You have to be forward thinking. But you're always able to exchange to a different game that was somewhat in your ticket plan or around the same, dates or what have you. Well, this year it's different from my perspective. I've been able to exchange tickets for games and gobble up some of these good promos that I didn't maybe have in my original ticket plan. Just moving things around here and there, and you definitely have to be, there's a strategy involved, but I'll take a Tuesday night game and I'll move it to a Saturday, lower level. And I've got some of these promos like that 93 White Sox sweatshirt they're going to be giving away to honor the division championship team. You better believe I switched a ticket for that. So
look at you.
I know.
You are a forward-thinking person, and
I am.
And Sydney in our chat there wants to bring back Dollar Dog Wednesdays. I agree, and the fact that you could get it's not Best Kosher anymore. What is is it
Vienna? Is it
Vienna or Hebrew National? Whatever the ones they do with the onions used to be Kosher's Best, which were the best. But anyway, you get those for like $250 or something like that. That's fantastic. So I agree. Bring back how many hot dogs for just the regular ones, not the big ones with the onions. But if you're just doing the hot dogs from the vendor, walking up and down the aisle, how many hot dogs do you think you'd have on a $1 hot dog night? If you had nothing to do the next day, Nick, and you just you could let it all hang out.
Hangover. I definitely can do one an inning. That's not a question.
You're gonna have nine hot dogs?
A regular hot dog and bun, no major fixings. I'm not talking one of those, like you said, the big, the kosher best, but just a simple boiled hot dog and steamed bun without. We're not talking Chicago style where they're gonna, drag it through the garden, but just simply a hot dog and bun. Oh, I can do 9.
That's because you're a runner. Because you know what, you people that are fit. You can find ways to pack it in there. Good for you. I don't think I could do 9 hot dogs in a night.
Okay. Now here's the question. Here's the problem, Pat. As I just said that innings are different. Okay.
you bet he'd be like Kamasaki or whatever his name is that can just who's the hot dog eating contest guy?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Now that I've got Kamasaki on the brain, I don't think I could come up with
I was close. I was close.
Let's just say Joey Chestnut. Let's say Joey Chestnut.
He's one of them.
That's an easy. I would say that is a
dog eating guy.
Yes. Say as you type. Say out loud as you type.
Hot dog eating guy.
So I would say
Joey. Well, it is Joey Chestnut. And what a fantastic picture when you Google Joey Chestnut too. The second picture that comes up,
45 hot dogs in his mouth.
That is one you want to have. Well, that's what comes up. It's just all Joey Chestnut.
File photo.
There's another person that maybe I'm just not thinking correctly on. Okay. Anyway, that's you though. Look at that.
Quicker innings though. It's quicker innings this time. Rate of play. I don't know if I can be able to do a hot dog an inning with this new pitch clock situation.
Well, you got to dip it in water like the professionals do, Nick.
Yeah.
And eat the dog first and the bun later. Don't fill up on the bun. You can do it.
Yeah.
All right, we're doing it. When we go to a game, we're going to have
Well, that was the other thing I was going to say to you is I can massage some tickets to maybe a Friday night, and I think we need to do a Good Guys Talk Back tailgate.
Oh, look out.
And then we'll do a hot dog challenge at the game.
Who can eat more hot dogs between
$100 on hot dogs because there's going to be no deal. But it's a thought that has not come back yet. I wish it would too. But Dog Day is back. May 2nd.
Get out of here.
Dog Day is back, and I filled out an application for my dog Southpaw to go.
You're going to bring Southpaw to a game?
I committed to that. I filled out the paperwork. That's all.
And for those that don't know, Nick is the biggest dog person I know. Loves dogs. I remember one time I saw you. You put water in your mouth and held it there, laid on the ground, and you let Southpaw drink it out of your mouth. That's how much you love this animal.
That sounds that's a nightmare. I tolerate the dog. It's just, it's a lot. It's a long story. That's a whole different podcast episode, but I would like for him to experience. I mean, his name's Southpaw, for goodness sakes. Let's bring him to a dog day, and that's May 2nd.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to do fantastic amongst, 20 or 30,000 people with a bunch of dogs. It'll be great for him. It'll be great.
And for you and for others that are interested, Yoga Day is happening.
Yoga Day?
Yoga, not Yoda. Not Yoda.
Well, if they had a Yoda bobblehead, then, I would be there for that.
You know what? I'm surprised. I haven't seen any Star Wars.
They usually have a Star Wars night. There's got to be a Star Wars night.
You know what I would really appreciate is they could get on the DC train here and give me a Batman White Sox bobblehead.
Oh, that would be right up your alley.
The next time they do a Batman movie.
What is a yoga night consist of?
Well, I think it's yoga in the park before a day game. It's Saturday, June 4th.
Okay.
I think you just get out in the outfield. I'm sure you have to have some sort of special pass. You just can't, climb your way into the ballpark with your yoga mat and just start. It's probably all organized. I'm sure there's certain times, but I'm
sure it's organized. No,
you
just walk out there in your spandex and just stretch on the field.
Wait a second. There's certain times, folks, that you need to show up for this. I could see Roger Bossard, the sad father, just all kinds of excited for that.
Oh yeah, people with their mats out there. Which reminds me of the great Brian Regan bit. If you've never heard it about yoga, and he talks about he can't relax doing yoga because it's like take the bottom of your foot and place it on top of your head and relax.
Relax.
You can't relax. Have you
Oh,
done
man.
yoga before?
I have done yoga before. Your brother was doing that P90X program
Oh,
when your brother and I were roommates 1,000 years ago, and he's like, "Hey, try it, try the yoga DVD." And then I did, and I couldn't walk for at least 5 days. And so from what I've heard from people is the P90X yoga, that's it's intense yoga, not just maybe a traditional yoga that
it's
you'd
like a
show up
hot
at your.
yoga.
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I just know I was in for something that I probably shouldn't have been doing because I had no prior experience.
Let's stick to the hot dog eating contest and not the yoga day.
I think that's more our speed.
Yeah.
We'll just do the hot dog stuff. We'll figure out a date for that.
We're going to show up and say we're here for the hot dog eating contest. You're like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's a two-person. We're actually doing our own contest.
Yeah, we're doing our promotions now.
Yeah. So fun stuff. I love the giveaways and the promos, and I'm sure there'll be more. There were 5 player bobbleheads last year. There's only 3 right now on record. I would assume that there's going to be another one.
Well, I mean, it's amazing, and I like bobbleheads. For my kids, they love it. It's amazing, how much bobbleheads have become such a collectible thing, and people will put it on their calendars and line up for hours to get a bobblehead. So
yeah.
I would imagine they know what a good promo is, and they know that they're going to add. I would guess 2 or 3 more. Yeah, there'll be 2 or 3 more. I believe bobblehead nights.
Yeah, they'll release these as the year goes on, and I on the low end, the White Sox are on the low end with MLB. Other teams releasing bobbleheads. There are teams that might be in the teens with bobblehead releases.
Get out of here!
I think the Royals are giving out a Bobby Witt Jr. bobblehead on opening day. I mean, talk about that. So, Sox have done some really cool bobbleheads over the years, but I don't feel like they give out nearly as many as other teams do. So,
no, Jerry.
Yeah, it's Jerry.
Blame Jerry for it.
Yeah, so there you go. You want to talk Last Comiskey Part 2 because I really enjoyed it, folks. If you haven't been following this podcast, that we're all kinds of excited about what the Flesh Brothers have done with Last Comiskey and the stuff that they released several years ago, and now the big 3-part documentary that is so polished up with so many amazing interviews, and I've absolutely loved it. Part 1 dropped March 2nd. We had Matt Flesh on in a couple episodes ago to talk about that and all the inside information, and then Part 2 dropped this past Thursday, March 9th. Part 3 will be March 16th. And I watched Part 2 Friday morning, and I might go back and watch it again. There were so many fun things, and it brought back so many memories. And I love the stuff they did on Carlton Fisk. And, the way the pitchers talked about Fisk, and they were afraid to throw to him, and they didn't want to shake him off. And when some pitchers did get up the courage, and Fisk would say, don't, like, I know what I'm doing here. And how they would look at Carlton Fisk is in his 40s, and he would catch 9 innings, and he'd go in the weight room, and he'd lift weights for X amount or whatever and it was like, wow, look at what this guy is doing. He's leading by example, and I was fascinated with that stuff. Fisk was a favorite player of mine growing up. I played catcher in Little League at the beginning, and he was one of those superstars that we had on the team. And then obviously Karko. There was some stuff on Officer Karkovice, which I really loved. And I got a couple other things, but I want you to jump in. Part 2, it definitely had the Oakland A's Sox, but it gave you a taste also of that 83 team.
Yeah, again, a great episode. You had a part in it, so if you haven't watched it, for those that are listening now, if you haven't watched Part 2 yet, you get to see a little bit more of the media mogul that is Nick Murawski. He's got a section in there that's fantastic. And I thought it was interesting. They talked about changing the dimensions of the ballpark. It's like, this ain't working. We're gonna
Evans,
moving home plate up, bringing the wall in. And for me, as a Frank Thomas fan as I am, them talking about him coming up and how at a young age he was able to set up pitchers. And I think it was funny, I would watch Frank Thomas, for a long time, and it's like, what is he doing, jumping out of the way all the time? And to know now that was all a setup to get them to come back in there so we could clear his hips through and get the barrel on an inside pitch and drive it, and just people being in awe of watching him take a batting practice. So and Frank learning a lot of, early on from Carlton Fisk and the work ethic. They talked about that. So that was, my favorite part of this episode was talking about, again, what you mentioned with Carlton Fisk and how hard a worker he was, and the interaction he had with his teammates, and everybody respected him and looked up to him. And then you're talking about like this young superstar coming on, onto the team, and Frank Thomas, and Frank taking a lot of those hardworking values that Carlton Fisk had and use those throughout his career. Because I think a lot of what, we got towards the end of Frank's career was the infighting a little bit, and how much of he was somewhat of a little bit of a diva. He was painted by the media. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but you got this section to hear about his young career and how hard he worked and how smart of a hitter, not just how powerful he was, but how smart of a hitter he was. So that's what I loved it. I mean, the whole thing was fantastic and well done. I mean, the talk about the vendors and the family and the bond that was, and how cool that it really brought you in to you felt like you're at the game. The Flesh brothers did a fantastic job of transporting you into that time and that space, and feeling like you're a little kid again, and being at the old ballpark.
Yeah, it really transports you right back there, and they get you to feel what they want you to feel. Which I think is a complex thing, and it's edited so well, and to kind of have the idea, the vision of what you want to convey to your audience, and what kind of audience you're trying to do this for, and for it to hit the way it's hit, that's a special feeling. So I can't wait for part 3. Another thing in part 2, I love how they focused on the '83 team, which was, I was alive, but I was young. I didn't, I wasn't really, I couldn't experience the mania. I had to kind of learn about it as I grew up. But why couldn't they do that in '84? They brought Tom Seaver in, and Dan Evans, said, look, chemistry. We lost some personalities that were huge. Chemistry is so important. And I kept thinking about this 2023 team and what Griffol's trying to do, and the chemistry, the culture, the togetherness. And maybe people kind of scoff at that and laugh about that. And it's like, well, that's cute and all, but players still have to perform. Chemistry it's just so I think about those Boston Red Sox teams, that motley crew, that 2004 team, where, they just, there was something that bonded them. Just a bunch of knuckleheads that, they got it done. And that was like the '83 team. And so hoping that can translate this year for the White Sox with some chemistry, but really such a great watch.
And to add on to that, how, fragile chemistry can be depending on who comes and who goes, and the small changes that can be made that you don't really see, on the surface when they're done, but the lasting effect it can have, and can run deep through your ball club. If you make the wrong move chemistry wise, it really can affect your ball club.
I think part 3 might be focusing on the bullpen, but then also kind of wrapping things up with a long goodbye, obviously, to Comiskey Park, and hopefully there's a lot more Bobby Thigpen, because he was so instrumental on that 1990 team. But a lot of good stuff, man. Always a pleasure, buddy, talking White Sox with you, my friend.
Yeah, it was great. I feel like we're close, but so far still from opening day, but I'll be here before we know it. And the person's name I was looking for before is Kobayashi.
So there you go.
Joey Chestnut, Kobayashi. You can you choose which one you want to represent, and I'll be the other one. And we're just going to go head to head with hot dogs.
I believe the next episode, Pat, the 108 tournament will already be going on.
Oh, yes. And you're part of that. I've somehow I got left off this year, but that's all right. I'll be tweeting and rooting for you, the media mastermind that is Nick Murawski.
It is it's an honor to be involved. If you're not familiar, the good folks from Section 108, Chirizi and Beef Loaf and My Sox Summer have been putting this just tournament of personalities, all different kinds of stuff together for several years now, and I'm involved in this. I've got a first round opponent though that it's a really unfortunate situation. Herb Lawrence he's the one and only. I mean, he has been such an amazing person to you and I. Every time we've said, "Hey, Herb, can you jump on Good Guys?" And he's given us some precious time of his. Connected with him just on Twitter, always so positive and has built us up. And I have, just loved what he's been doing at CHGO and such a great White Sox mind. So I'm going to be voting for Herb Lawrence in that first round matchup.
Well, I'll be voting for you, and I think
Okay.
everybody else should. I agree. Herb is a fantastic guy and had some nice things to say about me, but but I really can't. I can't vote against you, and I'll be out there cheerleading for you as I did last year. And let's get you out of the first round. See if it happens.
It's just an honor to be matched up with the great Herb Lawrence. That just is a really nice thing. And this is a little heads up to my Good Guys Talk Back listeners. Just a token of solidarity and peace. Herb Lawrence is going to come on the Locked On White Sox podcast.
Wow. When is this happening?
He's going to be my the Tuesday episode. Get
Tuesdays
ready.
With Maury, Tuesdays with Herb.
Tuesdays. So it's going to be nice to have him on in spirit of this 108 tournament.
Wow. Well, you better hold up your end of the bargain because you don't want to lose votes if you have a terrible interview. So good luck.
It's going to be a wonderful experience.
You want me to write some questions for you to help you, or are you good?
I'd love your input. So send me those your way.
All right.
All right, buddy. Such a treat, folks. Thank you for joining us live. If you're on our YouTube channel, we really appreciate jumping in on the comments. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll get updates. We try to do this on Sunday nights live. Sometimes we have to shift to a Monday night. And of course, you can find the audio, this podcast, absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. Pass us along. We do appreciate that as the Sox inch closer to opening day. On Twitter at Good Guys TV, and we've got a Facebook fan page. For Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.